Hello, Leonie. Can you believe it's another week gone by?
Hello, Jackie. Can you believe the year's gone by?
I know. Not long to go now, is it?
I mean, Christmas carols are starting to be played in the shopping center. Everywhere people's got their Christmas decorations coming out. I'm like, no, I just packed mine away. How is it possible?
I know. I said it last month. Someone said they'd put all their decorations up, and I went, "You what? It's
I'm not that
October."
eager.
Just like, oh, there you are. Anyway, not that I'm putting any up, but you know.
Yeah, I'll put some up because we've got family coming over for Christmas. So
Okay.
I'll put up some decorations because they've got little kiddies that's coming as well. So it will be nice for the little kiddies,
Yeah.
So yes, we've got some decorations, but I'm definitely waiting for December before mine goes up. Okay.
So, talking of on that sort of thing, I was thinking that, where people are planning for things, I
Mm,
thought this week we could talk about goal setting and how
awesome.
do we aim for that bigger picture, but
Yes.
the bite-sized steps, the habits and things that we need to change to get to that goal. So, thinking about that, when we're looking at the long-term goal and we're thinking about, okay, so we want to go on holiday next year or
Mm,
we want to change a certain mindset.
mm.
How would you then say to somebody, what would your advice be to somebody and how they should look at that year if we're looking at that bigger picture first?
Yeah.
But we're obviously staying here thinking, well, actually, that's humongous. How am I going to get from
Mm,
there to there?
mm. I always ask my clients to do like an exercise. So let's say, for instance, I'll use writing a book. For me now, not for everybody else, for me, this is what I do. I want to write a book. This is what I would like the book to be. I told you about my leadership journey book that I'm going to
Mm,
write. So there's different ways that you can handle this now. A lot of people will first put in some research into the topic and then start writing. Here's what Leonie does. I want to write a book about the leadership journey. Right. What am I going to put into that book? Because clearly you need to know what topics you would like to cover. So
mm,
then I will sit down and I want to write the book. How many words do I want in this book? So my end goal will be, I want to write this book. The next step for me is that, okay, how many words am I going to put in this book? Because I can't write a 300,000 word self-help book because it's going to be like yay
yeah,
thick. So I then went that's what I did the other day. I Googled to see a self-help book, roughly how many words goes into a self-help book. And I got the word count from there. Then I work it back from there again. I'll say,
yeah,
okay, how many chapters would I like to do? So I couldn't quite figure out how many chapters I'm going to break it down into. So what I did is I took my first topic and I wrote until I felt I was like, okay, that's it. I've covered the topic. And I've checked how many words there was in that topic, in that section that I wrote.
yeah,
That, and that gave me an idea of how many chapters I would
yeah,
like to put into my book now. So now I know that for every chapter that I'm going to write, I've got to write between 2,500 to 3,000 words. And
yeah,
that's how I then work it out. But you like I said, we've got the big picture. I want to write a book. Now, how do I get there?
yeah,
I don't just sit down and start writing because
yeah.
there's so many other steps in place that you have to think of.
Exactly.
Some people do that. Some
Mm,
people said, I want to write a book. They sit down and they just blurt
right.
out this book.
Yeah,
And I admire them for doing that, but I can't. I
yeah,
can't.
yeah,
So it doesn't mean that I can't write a book. It just means I've got to follow a different process or a different
yeah.
procedure to get to that point.
And I was thinking about that with habits. So we've got this goal that we want to change or we want to learn a new habit or a new, it might just be for me, like, for example, somebody wants to learn tapping. Well,
Mm,
yeah, we've got that might be our end goal, but we then got to break it down. Well,
mm,
what do we have to do? Then the next stage coming back was, well, how much time have I got for that?
mm,
And then breaking that down to, well, what can I do? How much time is that? We've written that down. Okay. So then we've got to break that down into weekly, then daily,
yes,
and working our right
yes,
back to actually it's going to take me half an hour every day. And I
correct.
will learn that process, follow those guidelines or those rules. so that we can get to that bigger picture at the end, which is actually, I understand it, I know how it works.
Yes.
You know, you've done your course, you've accomplished your course, and then you've worked through that process. And I was thinking, so sometimes I think people forget the steps in between.
Yes, they
They
do.
want to jump from A to Z.
You know, and that is something that happens constantly or continuously or regularly. I take, for instance, when my boys, when they were younger, they went off to school. Grade 1, they were doing phenomenal. Grade 2, they were flying. Grade 3, I saw my oldest one started slipping slightly, and I'm like, what's going on? But being in corporate career at that stage, the school must handle it. I carried on with what I was doing. And then from grade 4, you could see slowly he started slipping. Now, fast forward, when he went to high school, I then decided that they're going to be homeschooled. And what we have discovered is that it's like building a wall. And you lay the foundation. Every brick must be in its place. And then you can put the second row on top, and then you go for the third row. But when we forget steps, we leave out a brick. There's going to be one brick in the foundation that's not there. Now you're trying to build on top of a space.
Yeah.
So eventually it caves in. And that's what we've discovered with the schooling at that stage. And by the way, I'm a qualified school teacher. So people looked at me with big question marks when I said, I'm now going to homeschool the children. And it's the same with everything that we do. Even with my book that I want to write. If I miss a step, and I'm not trying to build on that void, it's just going to conk in. It's going to cave in. And that's why it is so important that we work something for people that think like, or that think in the same lines as what I do, take the big picture and then work it back, and then you get all the steps in place. It's very important that you stick to those steps and go through them, because the minute you do, it can only work.
Yeah.
Years ago, I just celebrated this 2 days ago. I celebrated my 21 years in the motor industry. And when I started was at the Mercedes-Benz head office, implementing the software across all the Merc dealerships. And we had a project plan.
Yeah.
From step 1 to step whatever it was that we had to follow through to see what is good, what that we have to implement. That we have to implement stuff. And what we then did is that you go through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And every time we finished our project plan, the project was done. Yeah. And it was running like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, because you've got that to-do list to work through, and to really break it down. It's not like just, we're going to implement this system all over Mercedes, is it? You've got to break it down to, well, what do we need to do to accomplish this bit, that bit, etc., and work our way through it, so that we can accomplish that goal at the end of it. And I think when we break it down, and that's what people forget to do those small parts. They're still trying to get to that end goal, but they've not sat and thought, well, actually, what do I need to do today to get one step nearer? What do I need to change? What is it that I need to learn to make that next step? So that all those little bits are in place, and gradually we build up the bigger picture till at the end we actually accomplish what we want to accomplish. But without making, and I think you see so many people fail at things, and I think that to me that comes from not actually looking at the bigger picture and then thinking, right, okay, now let's break this right down to literally day by day.
Talking like that, a few times my husband would say to me, come, let's do this, and I'm like, whoa, stop, because my line of work, when I'm not coaching, I'm an analyst. So immediately when he says something to me, I start analyzing it and I break it down, boom, 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 boom. And he looks at me and like, do you have to be such a killjoy? So I said to him, no, you've got to remember, before you can achieve that, look at all these other steps that need to be in place before you can actually get there. But that's not something that happens overnight either. It came with practice, because again, when we tackled these big projects, There's so much that goes into ensuring that the project's going to run smooth and that the software is going to work and everybody can just carry on working like nothing ever happened. There's so many little steps in place that everybody doesn't, they don't realize that. And that's why when you are ready to tackle a big project, just sit down and just work your way through it and see, right, this is where I would like to be. Now, what do I need to do to get there?
Yeah.
It's not just wake up today and tomorrow morning I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
There's a few steps that we have to take. And you know that there's that saying that says 1,000-mile journey starts with the first step. So one step at a time is how you're going to get there.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, I was thinking what I do on a daily basis. So I've got a certain amount of things like you, we want to accomplish in the week. So you have to know you're going to accomplish those. If you leave it by chance, think, I want to do that lot this week. I want to write some letters, and I want to do some emails, I want to do this, and I want to do that. But if you don't actually write it down and say, right, actually schedule it in, more than likely you don't necessarily get, because something, especially when we work from home, something comes up, and then you forget, or you get distracted. Whereas if you've got a list of, right, at 10 o'clock I'm doing this, 11 o'clock I'm doing that, and you tick them off your list, then you see that sense of accomplishment, which keeps you motivated for the next day when you look and think, well, I didn't accomplish that bit today, but that's okay. That goes into tomorrow's priorities. Right now, that's top of the list because that has to be done today.
Yes.
And then you work your way through. And I think that's what keeps me motivated to get to Friday's goal of, actually, I've done all of that and I've scheduled, my posts or whatever it is that we're working on, or I've spoken to so many clients, or, you've got that all written down. And I think that, to me, somebody else calls it, a lot of people say to-do list, but the other way I think about it, and it's just, somebody said it to me quite a few years ago, was a to-do list. So it means I've finished, I've accomplished that.
I like that.
A positive way of looking at a to-do list, because a to-do list can look and you can think, oh, I'm never going to manage all of that. But a to-do list is actually the results of that. Oh, I've done this, and this today.
I like the to-do list, by the way.
Yeah,
I like that very much. I might just borrow that from you.
You're
like the to-do list.
Yeah. And I just think that, to me, is like, a positive way of looking at what we've got to do. I think it's important.
I've also got a to-do list, but I don't put a specific time that I'm going to do it. Like, for instance, at 10 o'clock, I will do this. At 11 o'clock, I'll do that. I've got them jotted down. And I usually know exactly how long it will take me to do a thing. That is because
that's important. That's something I've learned. Before I used to think, oh, I'll do that today. But then you don't realize actually how long that task takes you. And actually it might take you longer than the day or whatever.
That's why I've always got my cell phone, the timer. I've got it handy. If I'm starting a new thing, I always take my time and I see, okay, I really battled with this chapter, for instance, or I really battled with this email sequence that I'm doing. How long did it take me? And I would put it down. But I also use how can I put this? I also use it differently, because a lot of the times, especially, we've spoken about this, the fact that I was in this bad headspace for a while as well now, to try and force myself to get busy again, to stop procrastinating. I would set my timer for an hour, and in that hour, I am going to work on this thing.
To use
and then I work.
That's interesting, because I don't use the timer, but I put them on the sheet. And sometimes they might take 1 hour, sometimes it might take 2 hours. And then I'll move it down, and that one down the list, if you like. But I've never used a timer.
Because what I've also noticed, that if I've got 3 things on my list for today, and I'm like, it's only 3 things, I'll get to them. No, I don't, because I was procrastinating about getting to them. And I'll do it now. And then I start working on something, and let's say I'm writing, and I'll write a sentence, and I'll stay out the window, and then I'll check, oh, I got a Facebook notification. Oh, somebody just sent me a WhatsApp. Then I do all of those things. So when I know, especially when I give myself a stern talking to, I put my phone on silent, I don't have notifications popping up or anything on my computer except for my emails, of course. But I put my phone on silent, but I set the timer that for this next hour, this is all I'm going to focus on.
That's
And when I
interesting.
do that, it sometimes takes me 30 minutes and I'm done with it. Or, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just spent yesterday the whole day for 8 hours staring at this thing. I could never
Yeah.
get it
I was like
finished.
that on Wednesday, just like, I don't know
Yes.
what happened, but it's just like, I never felt like I accomplished anything.
Yes. So for me to, you know, to get myself into gear again,
Yeah.
I'll give myself an hour. And for that hour, nobody needs to talk to me. I'll close my door. Don't talk to me. Don't open my door. I'll have my coffee here before I start. So
Yeah.
don't talk to me. And for that hour, that's all I'm doing. And eventually I start getting back into motion again. And I start picking up to the point where I don't need my timer to say to me, okay, get up and walk now. You know, I get there as well. But to start getting myself into gear again, I use my timer to say for the next hour, you will focus
That's
on
interesting because
this.
there's a new app on my Mac and you can click on it, do not disturb, and you can put times on it. So I normally, if I'm like concentrating on doing writing, I'll click do not disturb for 1 hour.
Yeah.
Then that way nothing, because otherwise you get distracted. And if you're in the middle of writing something, and you know, and like Ian will walk in and he'll ask me something, or he'll start talking about something, I'm like, shh, go away. I'm concentrating because I'll lose this train of thought.
Yes, yes. That's what I usually say to my family. I'm closing this door. Do not come in.
Yeah.
Do not come in. And then they know, okay, she's now going to try and focus because we get so easily distracted.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, especially again, when I was in this bad headspace, every interruption that came was an excuse for me not to focus.
You know, when you're having those days, it's easy, isn't it, to make an excuse?
Oh,
And that's why I
very.
think having those plans, so you know, and it's something that both of us talk about in much more depth, that if you've got that plan, then breaking that down and having that in front of you, like you journal
Yes.
every day, don't you? And you're really, you know,
not every day.
fantastic at it, really, compared to, you know, I write mine down on my bit of paper every day, but you've got like a nice book with it all in, you can go back up. I have to go and hunt all my old notepads and there's bits of everything in there, you know.
Yeah. I'll send you some notebooks to France, okay?
Yeah, okay. That sounds good.
We must get some from Claire. She's got some beautiful notebooks. We must get some from Claire with her designs on it, okay?
Yeah, definitely. And work our way through step by step. What are we going to do? And I just
think, you know what,
go on.
Jackie, talking about things that we have to do and habits that we have to form and stuff like that. People also should not get bent out of shape if they miss for a day.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we?
Yes, because, you know, and I suppose I'm going to get a few raised eyebrows now, but you know, that's the thing going around that if you do something, if you want to learn a new habit, if you do it for 21 days, that's it. Hey, I'm the proof that it doesn't work.
Yeah, we learned that this morning.
Yes, you know, and the minute I slipped up and I didn't continue with it, I'm like, I felt so bad about it. And that's where people then think they are failures.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I say don't get, and they give up. And so don't get too hung up on something like that. I mean, I've got something I told Jackie earlier on that I wear contact lenses since 2018. So I've got this habit that every night before I get in the shower, my contact lenses come out. And I've been doing that since 2018. And now recently, a few months ago, I jumped into the shower and realized I can see everything very clearly and realized I never took my contact lenses out. You know, so something that was a habit for me, all of a sudden that I just forgot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And something that me and another colleague always talk about is anchoring whatever you're trying to learn to something you already do. So you've done that and you've been doing that for so many years. It just shows that
and it just happens.
Just forget, you know. And the aim is from that is not, oh, okay, I'm not going to take my contact lenses out anymore. I'm not going to put them in again anymore, is it?
Yes.
It's just, okay, we start again tomorrow.
Yes, we start again from scratch. And that's the same thing with whatever habit it is that anybody wants to learn, is that, yes, it's good to, especially if it's to your benefit and it's to the benefit of those around you, learn your new habit. And if you do slip up on the one day, don't just give up on it. We try again the next day.
Yeah.
So
Try again. Yeah.
try again. I don't want people to feel like, ooh, I'm a
Yeah,
failure because I never managed to do
exactly.
this.
Yeah,
I
because
slip up on one day.
you know, we all make mistakes and we all forget things at times. And
Yeah,
the important point is to pick yourself up and just try again, because
correct.
that's what will help you eventually to accomplish
Mm.
that goal, or just to pick back up where you left off, like you with your contact lenses. It's just picking up and where you left off, and you know, okay, so hopefully you don't forget for the next 4 years, you know. But if it does, then you think,
There we go
it's a
again. I
memory
forgot my
issue.
contacts.
She might have another issue to have to work on there, but there we are. You know. Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. But yes, Jackie, it's very important. And when everybody should have goals.
Yeah.
Everybody has a goal. Like I said, mine is now at this point, it's to write the book. But let's say you want to go on holiday. That's another goal that you're working towards. And the way I do it is, I did the same. Well, I did this when in 2018 we went to Thailand. My husband's been nagging me. He wants to go to Thailand. He wants to go to Thailand. So I eventually thought, okay, you know what? Let me just go to Thailand. So I went and I checked the date, and then I just worked it backwards. Everything, the accommodation was booked and paid for way before we got there. The flight was paid and booked way before we got there, because you know there's all the things that we kind of need in order to get to the holiday destination. So I just worked from that day, and I worked everything back, and I started putting things in place, like making sure that the shuttle was booked, making sure that this was done, making sure that that was done. So by the time we got to the holiday, all we had to do was get in the car, get to the shuttle. Well, actually, I drove to the airport that day. Take the car, drive to the airport, park the car, and go on holiday, because everything was already done by the time of going on holiday.
And it's the same. I was thinking, if somebody, say, you know, somebody's looking at it and thinking, can I afford to do such and such? Then it's knowing how much, for example, yours of going to Thailand, how much is it going to cost? So what do I need to be able to go to Thailand? What do I need to save to get to that? And then, right, okay, so the holiday, the accommodation, gifts, eating out, all of those things, breaking them down, and then say, well, okay, how much do I then need to put by for that per day, per month, per week, you know, so that actually when I go in next year, I've actually got all of that money together.
And that's how we did it. Yeah, that's how we did it. So by the time we got to the holiday, everything was paid for, and we had our spending money. So I didn't break the bank. Okay, I did spend too much money in Thailand, but I didn't break the bank. You know, but it was all planned, because I saw how many months we have before we had to get there, and that's how I broke it down, and that's how we set it up. And because what prompted us to do that, we look at people and we think, how the heck do they manage to go on all these holidays all this time? Because I know what kind of work that they do, and I know about the income levels and stuff like that. I'm like, how can they all do this? I'm supposed to be able to do that as well. And it's all about the planning.
Yeah.
Because what we sometimes do is we just look at the big picture. We just look at the end result and think, I can never do that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. But then you break it down and you go, hold on. This is making a lot more sense now.
Yeah. And that's good, isn't it? Because I think if you can do that, because also on the opposite side, what happens is people look at that and think, oh, I'll pay for it on the credit card. And they don't think about it.
Yeah.
And then after, they then think, oh, what am I going to do? Whereas maybe for that year they've been budgeting before and saving and putting aside, they wouldn't have had to do it. They might have still decided they'd pay for it on the credit card, but they'd worked out that they could do that up until that point, you know, and put that money aside, so they've paid for it before they got it, you know.
Yes, it works much well. Again, for me, that's, you know, it works much better for me, and I prefer to work it like that, because I don't want credit card debt when I come back from holiday.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. And I think if they think about anything they want to do in life, whether it's going on holiday, it's a goal of what we want to accomplish. If we think of it in the principle of like setting a budget, you can use that structure, can't you, to break whatever problem it is or whatever goal or dream it is, that principle of looking back, right, we need that, whether it's like we need 300 sheets of paper, you know, to write that book with, whatever, 300 words, you know, we can work it down till actually, so that means I need to write so many words a day.
Correct.
To accomplish that book, or so many chapters a month, you know. And I know you often say, right, I'll write down now, what do I need, you know, in your journal, you've got all of those sort of things worked out. And you're very good at that, and I think that's something that can make people's life so much easier if they actually learn to do it.
You know, it does help. It really does help. Again, when I went through my bad headspace, I would take my journal and look at what I've written down of what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes I just read it because I just didn't have the energy to go do anything about it. But it was there, and it serves as a constant reminder, Leonie, this is what you want to do. Leonie, you need to pull your finger out your left ear and you need to go and do this. And it helped me in a way to get back on track.
Yeah.
Yes, it wasn't instantaneous. There is no quick fix. No, it takes you as long as it takes you. But I had something that I could go back and go read and go see.
Reflect
on. Okay. Reflect. Okay, this is what I need to do. Because you know that when I coach people, I say to them, look, if you want to get out of this bad headspace, you've got to do A, B, C, D, E. So when I was in this bad headspace, I thought, let me go see if my A, B, C, D, E really works. I had to go through that. And yes, it works. You know, I can safely say, oh, okay. But it depends on how much effort you as an individual is going to put into it.
Yeah, you know, exactly.
Yeah, I don't like cookie cutter formulas. I'm not going to say to you, here's my formula, this works slap bang.
Yeah,
I know mine works slap bang, but it depends on how much effort you are going to put into it. So it works for me, but it needs to work for you as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so sometimes we have to tweak those plans, don't we? But I think, to me, key is know what your goal is.
Yes.
Work out the steps to get there. Write them down so that you can look back over them, and then break them right down to a daily habit. And then look at that every day. Look at that daily habit and think, right, what have I got to do today to get to that? And then at the end of the week, look back over that week and say, right, what did I do? Okay, how near am I to what I should have done? Did I accomplish everything I should have done? And maybe we may need to make a few adjustments. That's not working for us, or we might need an alarm clock that, you know, goes off and tells us to do a certain thing. So we have to tweak it, and then gradually, as the more we do it, the easier it becomes. But then when we look back in that month, we think, wow, actually I've accomplished all of that. But I didn't get that done on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I need to then think, okay, that's got to go into next month. Why didn't I come? And analyze and reflect and review. And if we're constantly doing that, then we're more likely to achieve that goal at the end.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that's really important for everybody. So really enjoyed talking to you today, Leonie.
It was fun as always.
And look forward to whatever we decide to talk about next week.
Yeah. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah, you take care. Bye.
You too, thanks. Bye.